Bowins. Today we're going to discuss your book, Mental Illness Defined, Continuums of Regulation and Defense. How does your perspective differ from the standard view?
The way it differs mostly is that it's aligning with scientific evidence, in that the current system of diagnosis emphasizes discrete conditions, where they are actually quite fictitious. There's not a lot of evidence to support that. Things in nature, including in mental illness, work on the basis of continuums, and that's a key focus of the book. And that's to do with depression, anxiety, psychosis, hypomania, mania, other conditions. And I round out the picture with two very key additional elements, that being the importance of regulation and psychological defense.
Dr. Bowins, what role do regulation and defense play in mental illness?
Regulation is really a key aspect of any biological system. It's very important at so let's say a cellular level, at the level of the bodily functioning, such as with blood pressure, blood flow, immune system functioning. It's even very important at an ecosystem level, where different ecosystems will self-regulate. But when it comes to psychological variables, it seems to be almost totally ignored. And it's virtually completely deficient in understanding of mental illness. And on the other hand, there's a lot of scientific evidence to back that it is important. For example, with depression and anxiety, you have excessive sadness and fear, anxiety respectively, that is arising from emotional limbic system centers that is not being regulated properly from higher cortical centers. And in the book, I really draw out the importance of regulation, how some of the higher cortical centers, like the prefrontal cortex, exert a regulation over those responses. And also in regards to hypomania, where it's a defensive structure against depression, but when it's not properly regulated, it goes into mania. Psychological defense is the second thing that rounds out the picture beyond continuums. Psychological defense is really a key aspect. When Freud came up with the concept, he indicated to a friend in a letter that he believed he came up with one of the key aspects of nature. And that is so because it really touches on the whole issue of resilience. I believe that what's happened is that the evolution of human intelligence has amplified a lot of things, including emotions. And on the positive side, that's good. On the negative side, it sets a stage for depression and anxiety and suffering. So we need a way to regulate or to dampen down those excessive emotions. So beyond regulation, psychological defense is a key there. And the book covers the various forms of defense that play a role.
Why do you think that psychiatric diagnostic systems emphasize discrete diagnosis?
Two reasons. One is that to simplify information processing, we like to put things into discrete categories. We lump them. It just makes information processing easier. So it's easier to say one type of depression, another type of depression, than a continuum. The second is the pharmaceutical company influence. Pharmaceutical companies have been heavily influential in psychiatric research by the funding, and they perceive it, rightfully or wrongfully, that they can market medications to discrete entities easier than to continuous variables.
Dr. Bowins, who do you think would benefit from your book?
Any mental health professional, whether that be psychiatrist, clinical psychologist, social worker, anyone in that area. Also, people who are suffering from mental illness who want to see a different perspective as well. And I do include some very novel ways of approaching mental illness therapy.
Dr. Bowins, why was it so important for you to write your book, Mental Illness Defined, Continuums, Regulation, and Defense?
I wanted to make this very accessible to people instead of a lot of the information being in separate journal articles, and this provides a very condensed version of it with a lot of new information added.